What was the worst job interview you've had? Was invited for an ad helper position when I was 17. Would help fix computers for people at a shoddy PC fix shop. They asked me what's the first thing you check if a customer calls and says their screen doesn't turn on. I said, well, you gotta check if they have it plugged into a socket. They laughed and said thank you, that will be it. Then led me to the door and gently pushed me out. But that's the right answer, not if you wanna make money out of people's clumsiness/tiredness/distraction. Right answer is to tell the costumer to bring their broken screen to the shop. Keep it for, let's say, a week, and then tell them that, after hours of hard work, you found out there's no issue with it, and that they should check if it was properly plugged, or, if you wanna be more offensive, ask if they made sure to turn it on the right way, and then you hit them with a hefty bill for your efforts. Happened to me as a costumer more times than I'll admit. Guess enough people got tired of that technician that he went broke years ago. 5 interview rounds, with the last interview round being with the CEO, all for an entry-level customer service job. During the last interview, the CEO said you weren't allowed to get sick, and you weren't allowed to leave at the end of the day until all of the work had been done. So even though the job was 8 to 4, the CEO said customer service reps often stayed until 6 PM or later. She also asked if I would be comfortable secretly reporting to her about what the customer service team is up to. I declined the job offer and the company harassed me with emails asking why and what they did wrong. Really glad I didn't take the job. My first interview ever was at DQ, and I accidentally knocked a 90-year-old woman over. So after accidentally slaying your predecessor, how's life been as the new Dairy Queen? The Dairy Clause. When he said I'll give you extra hours if you bring me smokes every day, then put his hand on my leg and said his wife gives him passes to have fun. I also got a speeding ticket on the way to the interview. Was not my month. Would not have been surprised if you got a speeding ticket on the way home. Just not possible to get away from that shit fast enough. An agency sent me for an interview and said the starting salary is $33,000. The interview went fairly well until the interviewer said, so what sort of salary are you looking for? So using the info I had from the agency, I said, well, I think $33,000 is a fair starting point. The interviewer practically threw me out. He started to shout about wasting his time because I expected to be paid a huge salary, and who did I think I was? He was paying $20,000. And this is why I always bring a copy of the posting with me. I don't think it would have helped, and you probably dodged a bullet anyway, but one day it'll be useful. Close bracket. Job was for a vibration analysis engineer. I knew how to do the job well. I knew the pay should be around 95k, and they stated 55k in the interview. When I tried to discuss my point, they said, don't worry, there's plenty of overtime. They also mentioned, since they weren't involved with many balancings at the moment, I would assist the cleaning crew with a lot of the cleanings. I've never been so uninterested in a job in my life. Yeah, I have one that sticks out. I applied to a government branch as a network admin. The newspaper ad asked for a bachelor's degree. They called me into the interview. When I got there, the first thing the interviewer said was, we wanted someone with a master's degree. Why did you apply? Now, I wanted to give them the benefit of the doubt. Maybe they had other interviews that day and got them mixed up. Shit happens. I just informed the interviewer that the ad I applied for requested a bachelor's degree and confirmed the position I was interviewing for. No, we definitely wanted someone with a master's degree. So, again, why did you apply? If you wanted someone with a master's degree, why did you bother calling me in for an interview? You're very rude and unprofessional. Yeah, you fucked up at every junction thus far, but I'm the one who's rude and unprofessional. I always have the job posting / description printed with notes on it. Had similar comments a couple times and it's nice to have it right there. Once had an interviewer say, I don't know where you got this. You posted it. I copy / pasted. I once applied for a position and got asked to an interview. Even got the job. resume they received was completely blank due to some fuck up on the job site I used at the time. It just has my name/number at the top. Was pretty weird when they asked me basic questions. Not that bad. But I remember Taco Bell asked me what type animal I would be if I could be anything. Like WTF do you want me to say? I would be a fire ant so I could work efficiently with my closest friends. 16-year-old me said an eagle because they're strong and they can fly. Man, whenever I'm making small talk or getting to know someone new, I always ask them what two animals would they be if they could match them together. Me personally, I would be an owl and an octopus. I would be a large T-Rex and an even larger T-Rex. Had a phone interview and the woman kept asking more and more intrusive questions. Kept hinting I'm a total piece of shit who's totally unfit for the job. It was the easiest job description ever, and jumping to conclusions about my life that were completely untrue. For example, I found out that being a freelancer who gets a lot of decently paid work each month is apparently living off my parents. She kept going on and on like that for quite a while before I told her to piss off and hung up. Didn't really need that job too badly, but it was in a different country so the travel aspect was the main reason. Years later I found out it was a stress interview, which apparently is a thing. Fuck those people. The first question they asked was a statistics exam type question. Took me completely off guard. I half-assed the answer. A complete answer would have taken half an hour. The next question was about a Punnett square analysis. I answered honestly and said that the first thing I would do would be to look it up. Errors in Punnett squares are incredibly common, and I wouldn't trust anyone who said they could do it off the top of their head. I'd look it up, even if I'd done one last week. They really didn't like that answer. They wanted to know where my husband worked and where we lived. And they concluded that our 6-month rental location was completely incompatible with the commute to their location. The whole thing was just super weird. It was like they sat down determined to find a reason they should not hire me. I was relieved to get out of there. What was the job? Lab research. Why would you do Punnett squares and stats? Yep. Research job. An interviewer told me that he worried I would be sexually harassed if I joined his team. Red flag. At least he was honest and you dodged a bullet. This is true. It's just wild because he basically admitted that sexual harassment was a huge problem in that company and that management made no attempt to control it. And further, that the only mechanism of control was to not hire women perceived as attractive. What a world. As a nanny you get some of the weirdest job interviews. It's not a professional rep. It's Lisa, who married her college boyfriend and works for her rich daddy. Most were just a little awkward with some inappropriate questions. Like, do you have a boyfriend? Or do you plan on having kids soon? One definitely stands out. I go to an interview for a family of an 16-month-old. Mom introduces herself and tells me we'll be interviewing in the nursery. I follow her in and there's only one chair, the rocking chair. She tells me to sit on the ground in a not so nice way. It became very clear that it was symbolic for how she treats the help. She wanted to literally look down on me. I sit down and she gets her toddler out of the crib, sits in the rocking chair and immediately starts breastfeeding. I've been around a lot of breastfeeding mamas so it wasn't that weird, but she took her top off. So she was pretty open about it. First thing she says, I hope you're okay with this because you'll be seeing a lot it. No real hello. How's it going? Or a question. Just get used to seeing my tits. Then she tells me we'll be conducting the interview when she's done nursing. So for the next 15 minutes I'm just staring at her breastfeeding. Already super weird. The interview finally starts and it goes well. She's clearly a rich spoiled girl. Asks a million questions, which is cool, including a couple weird ones. When she's done, I go, can I ask some questions? Her response is nope. Then she tells me she wants to see how I'll do with the kid. For the next 2 hours I follow her around and do what she tells me. I change diapers, give the kid a bath, fold baby clothes, put the kid down for a nap, even washed breast pump parts, and she's critiquing me on everything. She sends me on my way eventually. I actually thought I did really bad because she was angry a lot. Whatever, because I definitely did not want that job. A month later I get a phone call saying I've been hired. Starting tomorrow. I laughed out loud. I had apparently been the best candidate by far. Probably because I just took all her shit. She had even ordered me a work uniform. Which is ridiculous. I tell her I'm not accepting and she's livid. I got messages for the next 6 months telling me how horrible I am and that I betrayed her, and others telling me I can still take the job. The fact that you got a call after a month makes me think she hired someone else who quit really quickly because she's clearly terrible and you were choice #2. I was thinking she was interviewing people for the entire month. Every day. Showing her tits too. And getting free labor from 30 people before settling on op as the best option, though still far from the idealized fantasy submissive Mary Poppins she was hoping for. I interviewed for what was my dream job, something that I have a ton of experience in and 2 degrees, including one from literally the most prestigious school in my field. They liked me so much on my first few rounds of interviews that they asked me to fly across the country for the final one. So I go through easily the worst travel day of my life, arrive for my interview, and the interviewer takes one look at my resume and says, I don't know why you came all the way out here. You aren't qualified for this. Apostrophe. Suffice to say I will never work there. Similar story from a former colleague. He was interviewing for a position with a local company that had a branch location in another city. He passed his tech screen. So they went for the in-person part, which involved flying him out and staying the night. When he arrived at the office for the interview, a receptionist led him into a conference room and dialed into a bridge on a speakerphone. After 5 minutes of waiting for his interviewer to join, the receptionist had to call the guy on his cell to remind him of the appointment. He finally joined and basically phoned it in, pun intended, as if he had no interest in filling the position, much less getting to know the candidate. The call lasted maybe 15 minutes. Needless to say, he didn't get the job. He later found out that the interviewer was actually back in our home city. So he flew 3+ hours each way and stayed overnight for absolutely nothing. Not a company you want to work for. I went into a family-owned custom furniture shop that had several openings in the carpentry department. Red flag #1. When I arrived I spoke to the person at the front of house stating I was there for an interview. The conversation went as follows. Note, owner's office was directly behind the front desk. He was watching us through a 2-way mirror. Meet a front desk clerk. Hi, I'm here to interview for the carpenter position. I saw your post on LinkedIn. Owner storms out of his office. Points a finger at me. Face full of anger. Red flag #2. Owner, are you experienced? Apostrophe. Me, yes. I have 7 years experience with carpentry, but I'm new to furniture. Apostrophe. Owner, are you experienced? Red flag #3. Me, yes. Apostrophe. Owner, fine. I'll get the lead carpenter and he'll talk to you. Apostrophe. At this point I should have noped the duck out of there, but I had been unemployed for some time and my savings was running on fumes. So I assumed he may have just been in a bad mood that day, so I had waited for the lead carpenter. Lead carpenter comes out and we have the interview on the sales floor. Interview goes as normal until he asks me about my experience. Carpenter, so tell me how you have experience with woodwork, but not with furniture. Me, I build musical instruments. I'm familiar with all power tools and measurements required. Carpenter looks at me like I have 2 heads while I explain this. But the rest of the interview proceeds as normal. He stated he'd start me off at 10/hours probational hire for 2 weeks to see how I fit. Part of the interview comes where he asked if I have any questions. Me, so is the owner having a bad day? Carpenter, no. That's how he is. Red flag #4. We have an awkward silence staring at each other for about 10 seconds. Then without saying anything I just walk out. Found out a few weeks later from a friend, who is a woodworker, that place is known amongst furniture woodworkers as the place you want to avoid, and he mentioned that a few days before I interviewed, that their entire carpentry staff minus the lead carpenter, about 8 people, walked out. I now live about a mile from that store and pee-butt it on my daily commute. Every 5 to 6 months they put up a now hiring all positions sign up front. Can't imagine how many people they have cycled through at this point. Edit. Holy cow, I didn't expect this to get upvoted. Awards and comments. Thank you all so much! Exclamation mark. To answer a few questions. The carpentry shop is in South Florida. Apparently they stay in business because they do amazing work. Two-way mirror, also known as two-way glass. A two-way mirror is GL but that is reflective on one side and clear on the other. Giving the appearance of a mirror to those who see the reflection, but allowing people on the clear side to see through. As if. At a window. The name is misleading but that's what it's called. This was 4 years ago now. So $10/HR was way too low for the verbal abuse and labor. In my early 20s I built guitars, ukuleles and occasionally violins. I have since changed vocations, but still repair them from time to time. Good idea you walked out of the interview. It would have been really depressing to work in a store where the owner yells at you every day. I've done it. It was fucking demoralizing. It just breaks you down. I was an admin assistant at a plumbing service company right out of college and the owner was a nutcase. Our hours were 7 to 5. But he came in when he pleased, usually 10 AM. Then 2 hours later he'd go to lunch with his friends, fellow service guys and some carpenters/contractors from the area, and he'd return after 3 or 4 hours. At 5 he'd say shoo I'm tired after all this work and head home. It was actually preferable when he was gone. Because when he was in the office he'd throw tantrums and chat about this employee's work, or that employee's attitude, or this customer not being happy with their work. Nothing could be done right. Yeah, do your job and he'd have you redo it while he told you exactly what to do. He couldn't relinquish control. At an interview to be a county street sweeper, guy asks me if I have a girlfriend. Proceeds to rant for 5 minutes how young people don't get married anymore. Then he asks me what I want to avoid at the job. At the time I had no idea how to answer as I'd never been asked that in an interview before. So I ask him to clarify, to which he just repeats the question over and over until he gets super angry that I don't know how to answer that. Then asks me to leave. To this day, biggest WTF interview I've had. Maybe the correct answer would be cars and trees, apostrophe, sharks. Thank you for watching. We hope you enjoyed this video. Please subscribe for more videos.